He laughed while I was building. Now he kneels inside what I own. The night he broke me. Chicago, Illinois. The laughter came before the silence. Simon stood in the center of our living room, a glass of bourbon in his hand, surrounded by his friends, men in tailored suits who smelled like money and arrogance. I stood near the kitchen counter, clutching my phone, fresh off a rejection email from another supplier who didn't believe in my brand. "So, this is what you do all day?" Simon said loudly, smiling. "Posting online and calling it a business?" They laughed. Hard. I tried to speak, but Simon raised his hand. "My wife thinks she's an entrepreneur. Meanwhile, I'm the one paying the mortgage." The room spun. My chest burned. I remember the hum of the refrigerator, the way the floor felt cold through my socks, the way no one defended me. Not even my husband. That night, when the guests left, Simon didn't apologize. He only shrugged and said, "You need to face reality, Kimberly. Some people are just not meant to succeed." I cried quietly in the bathroom, staring at my reflection, mascara streaked like war paint. Something cracked inside me, not loudly, but permanently. That was the night I stopped asking for permission to dream. And the night Simon unknowingly created the woman who would one day walk away from him, with everything. Before I continue, please subscribe to my channel to see more interesting stories. Thank you. Built in silence. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I moved my operation into silence. No more late-night pitches to Simon. No more explaining spreadsheets he never respected. I woke up at 4 a.m., worked from the dining table, and drove across state lines to meet suppliers who didn't care about my marriage, only my vision. My small wellness brand, once mocked as cute, became my obsession. Simon noticed my exhaustion, not my progress. "Still playing businesswoman?" he'd ask, scrolling through his phone. I smiled and said nothing. I reinvested every dollar, skipped vacations, sold my jewelry, learned contracts, branding, manufacturing. I made mistakes, expensive ones, but I learned faster than I failed. My first real breakthrough came from a woman in Madison who said, "I don't know why, but I trust you." That trust became my first major order. At night, Simon slept peacefully beside me while I lay awake, running numbers in my head, whispering affirmations into the dark. I wasn't building to prove him wrong. I was building because I refused to disappear. What Simon didn't know was that every insult he threw at me became fuel. Every laugh from his friends became a reminder. And somewhere between rejection emails and early morning drives, I stopped being his wife who dreamed and became a woman with a plan. The first taste of power. Austin, Texas. The email came while Simon was complaining about his bonus being smaller than expected. "Kimberly Jones, we'd like to discuss acquisition." I read it 3 times. My hands shook as I sat in a coffee shop in Austin, sunlight pouring through the windows, my laptop open like a doorway to another life. A regional distributor wanted exclusivity. Real money. Real reach. I closed the deal 2 weeks later. That night, Simon came home irritated. "You wouldn't understand corporate stress," he said, loosening his tie. I looked at him and nodded, hiding a smile. I opened a separate account, registered a holding company under my maiden name, hired a lawyer in Dallas who told me, "You're smarter than you think." The power wasn't loud. It didn't announce itself. It whispered. I started dressing differently, standing taller, speaking less at home. Simon noticed, but misread it as submission. "See? You're finally calming down," he said once. If only he knew. Because while he measured success in titles and applause, I was quietly becoming something he couldn't control. And control was everything Simon thought he had over me. His world begins to crack. New York City. Simon flew to New York for a conference, the same city where my brand was being pitched to a national retailer. The irony tasted sweet. He called me from his hotel room, frustrated. "Office politics are killing me. People don't respect loyalty anymore." I almost laughed. That same week, my product went viral after an influencer posted a video titled, "This brand changed my life." Orders exploded. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I watched Simon unravel slowly. He started drinking more, complaining more, asking questions he'd never asked before. "So, how's your little business?" I answered carefully. "It's growing."
He scoffed.
"Don't get ahead of yourself." But something had shifted. The man who once laughed now watched me, measured me. One night, he searched my laptop when he thought I was asleep. I let him, because the numbers he saw, he wouldn't understand them yet. Not fully. Not until it was too late. The invitation. Los Angeles, California. The invitation arrived in Boston gold. A private entrepreneurship gala. Media. Investors.
Press.
Simon opened the mail first. "Why would they invite you?" he asked, genuinely confused. I met his eyes.
Calm. Steady.
"Because I earned it." That night, for the first time in our marriage, Simon looked unsure. And for the first time in my life, I felt untouchable. But the real reckoning? It hadn't even begun. Public applause, private fear. Los Angeles, California. The ballroom smelled like ambition and expensive perfume. Cameras flashed. My brand logo glowed on a massive screen behind the stage as my name was announced. Kimberly Jones, founder and CEO. Applause rolled through the room like thunder. Simon sat beside me, stiff,
Silent.
When I walked up to accept the award, I felt his eyes on my back. No laughter now, no jokes. Just disbelief. I spoke calmly, confidently. This company was built in quiet rooms, on days when no one believed in me. I didn't look at him, but I knew he heard it. Afterward, people surrounded me. Investors. Journalists. One woman whispered, "You're going to be huge." Simon waited until we were alone in the car. "Why didn't you tell me it was this serious?" he asked, his voice tight. I stared out the window at the Los Angeles lights. "You told me it was nothing." The silence that followed felt heavier than any argument we'd ever had. For the first time, Simon wasn't ahead of me. He was trying to catch up. The man who needed me. San Francisco, California. Simon's company announced restructuring. He came home early that day, tie loose, confidence gone. "They're letting people go," he said quietly. "Nothing's guaranteed anymore." I listened. Offered tea. Offered nothing else. A week later, he asked the question I'd been waiting for. "Do you think maybe I could help with your business?" I almost laughed but held it in. Help. The same man who once called my dream a joke now wanted a seat at the table. "I have a great team," I said gently. "But I'll think about it." That night, he held me like he was afraid I'd disappear. His voice softened. Compliments replaced criticism, but it felt rehearsed. Too late. Because while Simon's world was shrinking, mine was expanding into boardrooms where no one knew him as my husband, only as the man who walked behind me. The truth in the numbers. Seattle, Washington. The audit was clean, profitable, scalable. My financial advisor smiled. "Kimberly, you're officially in 7 figures." I felt the weight of that moment in my chest. Not joy, not revenge, clarity. I bought property, secured patents, set up trusts. Every move calculated, quiet, irreversible. Simon started bragging about me, to his friends, to his family. "She's killing it," he'd say, chest puffed. I always believed in her. I watched him rewrite history in real time. One night, I asked calmly, "Do you remember calling me a failure?" He froze, then laughed nervously. "You're too sensitive." I was just joking. But jokes don't scar you. Truth does. And the truth was, Simon only respected me now because I had money. That realization hurt more than his insults ever did. The offer. Denver, Colorado. A national corporation wanted full acquisition. 8 figures. I stared at the contract in my hotel room, snow falling outside the window, my reflection staring back at me. Older, stronger, unrecognizable. When I told Simon, his knees actually buckled. "Please don't sell," he said. "This is our future."
Our.
That word tasted strange. What if I do?
I asked.
He panicked. Promise change. Therapy. Support.
Love.
I was stupid, he said. I didn't know. I looked at him and realized something terrifying. He didn't love me. He loved what I'd become. And that wasn't enough anymore. The decision. Boston, Massachusetts. I stood alone on the Charles River Bridge, contract in my coat pocket, city lights reflecting on the water. I thought about the woman who cried on the bathroom floor years ago. The one who needed permission. She was gone. Simon called again. Kimberly, don't leave me. I closed my eyes. I'm not leaving you, I said softly. I'm choosing myself. And for the first time, I meant it. But the real price, the one Simon would pay, that was still coming. When the apology came too late. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Simon cried for the first time in front of me. Not the quiet, dignified kind. This was messy. Red eyes. Shaking hands. Regret spilling out in broken sentences. I was wrong, he said. I was insecure. I felt small next to you. I watched him from across the hotel room, arms folded, heart strangely calm. I needed you back then, I said softly. Not now. He reached for my hand. I didn't pull away, but I didn't squeeze back either. He started recounting moments I barely remembered, missed dinners, jokes gone too far, words he wished he could take back. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you, he promised. That was the tragedy of it all.
He was sincere now.
But sincerity doesn't erase damage. It only highlights how long someone chose not to care. The contract he never read. Newark, New Jersey. We met with lawyers. Simon sat beside me, confident again, assuming marriage meant shared victory. He barely skimmed the documents. He didn't notice the structure, the clauses, the safeguards. Everything I built was protected, separate, intentional, deliberate. When his lawyer cleared his throat and said, "Your wife retains full ownership regardless of marital status," Simon frowned. "What does that mean?" he asked. It meant love wasn't leverage. It meant I learned from being underestimated. Simon smiled tightly afterward. Smart move, babe. But something flickered behind his eyes.
Fear.
The man who needed control. Atlanta, Georgia. Simon started suggesting sacrifices. Maybe slow down, he said. You're everywhere. It's a lot. I recognized the tone immediately. The same one he used when my dreams made him uncomfortable. I realized then Simon didn't want partnership. He wanted balance restored. Control reclaimed. When I refused to cancel a keynote speech, he snapped. So the business comes before your marriage now. I met his gaze. It always did. You just didn't notice when it was small. The silence between us turned sharp. Love, I learned, doesn't threaten you when your partner grows. Insecurity does. The truth he couldn't deny. Detroit, Michigan. A documentary crew followed me for a day. They filmed the factory, the team, the women I employed. They asked about my marriage. I answered honestly. Not everyone claps when you're building something they don't understand. Simon watched the episode alone. That night, he said nothing. Just stared at the television long after the screen went black. He finally whispered, I look like the villain. I didn't correct him. The calm before the storm. Nashville, Tennessee. I signed the acquisition papers, but quietly. The announcement was scheduled for weeks later. Simon sensed something. Hovered. Asked questions. Is everything okay? He kept asking. I smiled. Perfect. Inside, I was preparing for the hardest choice of my life. Because revenge wasn't my goal. Freedom was. And freedom requires truth. The kind that changes everything. The announcement. New York City. The press release went live at 9 a.m. By 9:07, my phone was vibrating nonstop. Kimberly Jones sells majority stake in Landmark Beal. Female founder secures 8-figure exit. Simon read the headline 3 times. You sold? He asked, voice barely steady.
I partnered, I corrected.
Strategically. He sat down hard on the edge of the bed. You didn't tell me. I adjusted my coat. You never ask. That was when panic truly entered his eyes. Not fear of losing money, but fear of losing access. Because for the first time, he understood something crucial. I no longer needed him for anything. The begging phase. New Haven, Connecticut. Simon changed tactics. Flowers. Notes. Public praise on social media. Long captions about his amazing wife. Behind closed doors, it was desperation. Let's renew our vows, he said one night. Start over. Start over. As if time could be reset. As if humiliation never happened. I watched him unravel slowly, tragically. The man who once towered over me now hovered, unsure of where to place himself. I don't recognize you anymore, he whispered. I answered honestly. You never really did. The question that ended us. Providence, Rhode Island. We were having dinner when he finally asked it. If you had failed, would I still be enough? The question hung between us like smoke. I put my fork down, looked him dead in the eyes. You were never afraid of losing me, I said. You were afraid I'd outgrow you. He said nothing, because silence, when it arrives, usually carries the truth. Chapter 19, The Mirror. Baltimore, Maryland. Simon lost his job. Restructuring. Budget cuts.
No ceremony.
He came home empty-handed. No briefcase, no confidence. I don't know who I am without work, he admitted. I felt sympathy. Real sympathy. But sympathy is not love. I realized then, this was the moment he once denied me. The moment someone needs belief more than advice. And he had failed me completely. The letter. Washington, D.C. I left him a letter. Not angry. Not cruel. Honest. I loved you when I was small. You only loved me when I became large. That is not partnership. That is convenience. I packed quietly. When I walked out, the city felt wide and open. For the first time in years, I wasn't proving anything. I was choosing peace. And the final lesson, the one that would break him, it was still coming. The woman I became. Santa Fe, New Mexico. I rented a small house with wide windows and desert light that poured in like forgiveness.
No assistants. No interviews. No Simon.
Just me, walking barefoot on wooden floors, cooking for one, sleeping without tension in my chest. For the first time, my success didn't echo against someone else's insecurity. I started mentoring women founders quietly.
No cameras. No applause.
Just truth. One of them asked me, did the success make it hurt less? I smiled sadly.
No.
It made the truth louder. Because when you rise, you don't just gain things. You lose illusions. And I was finally at peace with that. The call. St. Louis, Missouri. Simon called from a number I almost didn't recognize. I need help, he said. No pride left.
No anger.
Just exhaustion. He'd burned through savings. Job applications unanswered. Friends gone. I don't want money, he added quickly. I just need guidance. You're good at rebuilding. I closed my eyes. This was it. The moment life had been quietly preparing. I'll meet you, I said. Once. The room where power changed hands. Kansas City, Missouri. We met in a modest office space I owned. One he didn't know was mine. Simon sat across from me, shoulders slumped, eyes hollow. I slid a folder toward him. Inside was a business plan, funding access, mentorship connections, and a clause. You'll build it yourself, I said calmly.
No shortcuts.
No writing my name. He swallowed. And us? I looked at him. Not with anger, not with love. With honesty, I said. We were a season, not a lifetime. He nodded slowly. For the first time, he understood something essential. I wasn't punishing him. I was releasing us both. The apology that finally mattered. Omaha, Nebraska. Months later, Simon sent a letter. Not asking. Not pleading. Just accountability. I finally see her. The woman you were becoming while I was laughing. I'm sorry I needed you to shrink so I could feel tall. I folded the letter neatly, and placed it in a drawer. Some apologies aren't meant to reopen doors. They're meant to close wounds. Poetic justice. San Diego, California. I stood on a stage overlooking the ocean, sunlight dancing across the crowd. Success isn't revenge, I said into the microphone. It's clarity. The audience rose in applause. Later that evening, I saw Simon in the back, quiet, respectful, standing beside his modest booth at the Entrepreneurship Expo. He didn't approach. He didn't need to, because the final payment wasn't money. It was this. He finally believed in me, when it no longer mattered. And I walked away whole. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't leaving someone broke. It's leaving them educated, with the lesson they refused to learn when it was free. Thank you for listening to my story. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my videos.
Thank you.